Hey everybody, welcome back to another competency-based grading video. So as we dive in right here, we'll just go ahead and get right into the question of the day. And I've had this question from a lot of people over the past couple of weeks. So how do students stay motivated to do their work if it isn't graded? Will they do anything? That concern has been brought quite a few times as to, if we have these assessments we're grading, but all these other tasks that are part of the learning are not graded, will a student really do anything? So let's look at this. We know that with competency-based grading, the grade is now transitioning from what it has been reflecting a large part of just behavior. Did a student turn things in? Do they work hard? We're getting away from that to the grade reflects learning and really shows us where they're at on each learning goal. The grade has oftentimes reflected quantity, where we cover lots of things, many assignments. Students turn those in and they kind of get checked off the list, where the grade now is going to be focused on quality. The essential learning goals, the high depth of knowledge is going to be required here. So we're moving away from quantity into quality. And arbitrary assignments, things that have been just almost not, I wouldn't necessarily call them busy work, but sometimes it comes off that way, or fluff things that we just say, check, you did it. You just turned it in, so I'm not even going to look to see if you did it right, to meaningful assessments. I want to know where you're at, how you did on the learning goal. And I think as we think through this, and we get that that's what competency-based grading is moving towards, we get a little worried about we're moving away from behavior. Behavior is not a bad thing, right? We want students to work hard. We want them to participate. And I completely agree with that. That is not something we want to go away, but we want the grade to reflect learning. And I think the way we continue behavior to be part of the class is really focusing on these bottom two things here, that we focus on quality, high depth of knowledge, learning goals, and what is required to meet those, and meaningful assessments. If we have that as part of our class and part of just the nature of the class, I think behavior is just a byproduct of it. So we don't actually end up losing the good work ethic and participation, because students know that it's required to meet the quality and the meaningful assessments that is now part of our class. So we've got to make sure that the consistent message that we continue to get across to students is growth mindset. You can grow, you can get better. We want you to engage in these tasks because you're going to learn, you're going to get better. And you're not going to quit. You're going to keep going until you get the results you want. And the way to do that is embracing challenging tasks. No matter where you've been at in the past, as a writer or a mathematician or a scientist, you're continuously on track to get better. You're looking for growth and improvement. You take this feedback and criticism because you can learn from it. It's not necessarily a bad thing to make a mistake, because you're going to have another opportunity to grow and to get better. So we've got to continue to push that message to students. And I really like, on this question of motivation and will students do the work, relating that back to some of the arts or sports. Think about the Razorback band. On game day, we all enjoy watching them. They do a great job. It's a spectacular performance. But what we don't see is all the work and the learning involved ahead of time. They want to be good. They want to put on a show. Well, you can't do that without putting in hours upon hours of work beforehand. And they've done that. They've learned. They've made mistakes in practice. They've messed up, but they're going to continue to get better and to work at it. Same with the sports. And here we got Michael Jordan, the GOAT. He put in hours upon hours of watching film, learning from his mistakes, of doing simple skills and drills so that he could perform on game day. Working as a team, they put in the practice so that when it came game time, they were ready to go and they could actually accomplish their goal, which was winning, right? And we've got to get that message across to students that ultimately these activities that may not be graded is part of the learning process. It's how you're going to be able to perform the goal. And we know that the time spent working towards the goal, all those practice, all those that time there working towards the goal is going to be much greater than the time spent performing the goal. That performance may not be that long, but you're not going to be able to perform without putting in the work ahead of time. And I think helping students understand that, it starts to click and make sense. So brings up two types of activities, right? We have these learning tasks that are ungraded. And this is where some teachers have some concern, will students do these? Well, we've got to get the message across that this is part of the learning process. You can grow without penalty here. We want you to engage. We want you to be involved here because that's how you're going to get better so that you're prepared to perform, right? This is the exploration, the concept and skill discovery where students are learning. It's the practice, it's the concept and skill development as well. And so we have these learning tasks that are ungraded so that students can be ready for these performance tasks. And this is what is graded. These are ways for students to demonstrate their level of understanding on a learning goal. It's the meaningful and the quality assessments. And the pieces of evidence. This is ultimately what's going to tell us as teachers, where a student is at. It also informs the student where they're at. The performance task is going to be rigorous enough to where the students got to be able to do it. They've got to be able to put in the practice so that they can perform. So two main questions here that I think we need to really be reflective on as teachers. Are my learning tasks valuable enough to ensure that students participate? Or is the learning task something that really doesn't have a lot of value? There may be a couple of things over the course of our year that we're doing right now that we need to really have a good hard look and say, is this required to be able to perform that learning goal? And so we've got to really look at that. Performance tasks, are these providing accurate depictions of where my students are at in regard to the learning goal? Is it rigorous enough that those learning tasks are required? Or is it at a level where students, they could walk in and maybe be just fine on day one? We need these tasks to be at a high depth of knowledge, at a high quality, so that students are engaged throughout our classes. So some people are going to look at that and hear that and go, yes, I get that, except I still don't see the accountability. Where's the accountability? And I think, first off, that question we need to ask ourselves, are my learning tasks valuable enough to ensure that students participate? Is it engaging? Are students wanting to show up to class because they're curious at what's going to happen today? And do they see the value in that task to say, I've got to be able to do this so that when that performance task comes, I'm ready. Another thing we need to think about is that I-time is not just for failing students. Now, you didn't turn this in. You didn't understand this. And I-time is also going to be used for students who you might be passing, but you're at the beginning stage. You're at the approaching level. That's not where we want you to be. I want you to be meeting the goal. I want you to then go beyond that and try and exceed. And so we're calling students who, yes, you may have a D because you're beginning, but that's not where I want you to be. I'm going to be relentless in calling you in and saying, you're going to do this work. You're going to learn the work. And that's a big shift. Not just do the work, but learn what it is that the goal requires. And I-time is going to be rigorous as well, right? We can't just say, hey, sit here and do this work. We want you to be engaged in here because that's what's required to learn and to grow. And ultimately, if a student is refusing to do work, it is a behavior issue and it should be dealt with accordingly, right? If someone's just saying, yeah, I'm not going to do that, that's a behavior problem and may require a referral, may require calls home, it may require detention. So we have to treat that as a behavior issue. So hopefully this clears some things up and we'll go from there. So continue to ask questions and to grow, to be a learner as we go through this process.